Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joanna Vicente, and I'm the Executive Director and Co-Head of TIFF. I want to welcome you to our conversation with Mayye Zayed, Director of Lift Like a Girl. This hasn't been an easy year for us, and we want to recognize those who have supported and stood by TIFF as we've been challenged these past months. A sincere thank you to our lead sponsor, Bell, our major sponsors, RBC, L'Oréal Paris, and Visa, and to our major supporters, the Government of Ontario, Telefilm Canada, and the City of Toronto for their continued support. Thank you to our members and donors. You help us create a more informed, engaged, and connected world. For more details, visit tiff.net/join. A big thank you to the sponsor of today's event, one of our major partners, RBC Royal Bank, and welcome to the RBC guests here this afternoon. We are thrilled to gather you all today for a conversation with Mayye Zayed. Mayye's remarkable feature documentary debut, Lift Like a Girl, premiered in person and digitally at the festival this year, and she was chosen as one of 3 RBC emerging artists. Although we weren't able to welcome her here in Toronto, we are so grateful for this opportunity for you to get to know her today digitally, all the way from Alexandria, Egypt. And joining us today to moderate the conversation is Toronto-based writer, producer, director, and RBC-supported artist, BT Nayani. You may have seen her featured in the RBC trailers playing throughout the festival, and we're so looking forward to the conversation she'll lead. Also on screen with us this afternoon are 2 members of our fantastic TIFF Next Wave Committee. Lift Like a Girl was one of the films selected by the Next Wave Committee from official selection. Sia Mehta and Alexander Gallimore will be asking Mayye a couple of questions later on the conversation. And so without further ado, I'll hand it over to Nayani. Thank you all and enjoy the conversation.
Anna. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us online. Hey, everybody's joining me slowly. We're so grateful to have Mayye with us today to talk about her incredible film. I've watched it 3 times already, Live Like a Girl. And I'm just going to do a brief intro because I want to tell you her bio so you know exactly who this amazing woman is. Mayye Zayed is a director, cinematographer, editor, and producer from Alexandria, Egypt. She studied telecommunications and electronics engineering at Alexandria University before becoming a Fulbright scholar, studying cinema and media at Wellesley College in Massachusetts and documentary film at MIT. She co-directed and co-wrote The Mice Room in 2013 and directed the short A Stroll Down Sunflower Lane in 2016. And Lift Like a Girl, like Joanna mentioned, which has premiered this year at TIFF, is her feature documentary debut. And I will say to begin, let's just like... It is an incredible first feature. If I didn't read that and someone hadn't told me, I would not know. Like, it's just so well done, so impeccably done. So congratulations to you, Mayye. Yeah, I don't want to give anything away, and I'm not going to because I know there's people at home who maybe still have to watch it. So, I just wanted to have a conversation, and both Alexandra and Sia are going to have questions for you as well from the Next Wave Committee. But I'll start with a couple of questions. And for me, so beautifully shot, so many details and particular moments in the film where you're not just watching our lead, but you're also watching the people around her and their reactions. And you and your DP and your camera team did such a wonderful job of capturing those little moments and those cutaways that told more of the story, kind of reading it from the line. So for me, my question is, like, what was the journey like for you? Because obviously it happened over multiple years, and from one filmmaker to another who's worked on a multiple year film, what was that process like, and what did it do to you? How did it feel to go through that as a filmmaker and director? They're going to ask you about, what you learned from it, but I want to know how you felt during that time.
Well, for me, first of all, thank you for having me today. And for me, the like the process of filming the film took a lot of time, like 4 years. But I knew like from the beginning that I really want to follow just one girl, or like at the beginning I wanted to follow different girls in different age groups. But then I realized that it would be more interesting and the audience can relate more to the story if I just follow one girl. So the DP and I we were going there every now and then, just the two of us actually. We are a very small crew. As I was also recording the sound, and we were just basically living with them, being part of them, part of this family. And I think after 4 years, like the two of us and everybody like who would join us sometimes felt the same way, that, you know, we were also sort of weightlifters with them, like, you know, shooting the film in these 4 years.
Yeah, and I know you decided to focus on obviously our lead, but you also incorporated other people's journeys. You saw some of the other girls growing up, whether we were hearing from them or not, we got to see it. So there were those moments. So I think that was weaved together so beautifully with Zebiba's story. You got to see everybody else growing up too. And it was such a nice, like, secondary and tertiary and like stories surrounding her. So I think you still managed to do that in a really beautiful way while still giving us one focus. It was
I mean, yeah, because I think the community, the female weightlifting community there is very strong and very like they're really family. Like, and you go there, and most of these girls spend all their days in this training site, and they're very supportive to one another, and you can even see like older girls training younger girls, and it's really like I just fell in love with them, and I knew that, you know, a crucial part of Zebiba's story is the story of this place and this group of girls training there.
No, I think we all fell in love with him. I think even characters where we weren't always sure about, like Captain, we weren't always sure about his methods, but you did a really beautiful job of finding ways for us to fall in love with the different characters or find the things that we appreciate about them. My next question is, I think, what was the hardest part of making this for you? Because, you know, we're both women filmmakers, we're both women of color. You're also making, oftentimes when you look at documentaries that take place around the world, they're not necessarily told by people who are from those places, right? And so it's always an outside lens. So for you as a woman of color, as an Egyptian woman, you know, who's from there, what was the most difficult part for you of making this film? Not even the day-to-day, but just getting it done.
I mean, for me, the most challenging part was actually the funding part, because it came a bit late in the process, like the first 2 years or 3 years of production, the film was just self-funded, and it was me who took this decision that, you know, I'll make this story no matter what, because I believe it's a very important story, and I really want the world to know about it. So I had a lot of, you know, financial pressure, as well as the rest of the team, you know, in the first couple of years, but then eventually, like we managed to get it funded, and along the way, we started having great partners on board, and who really supported the story, and who are also very supportive of the whole process. But that was the most challenging part, because at the beginning I thought it can be an easy project to fund, but then I realized that no, it wasn't easy.
I mean, I can relate. I think the hardest part, that, especially for documentary, you kind of have to get your money wherever you can get it. There's so many multiple pools that you have to tap into. And especially if it's your first feature, it's also convincing people to take a risk and you know, bet on you. And so, I mean, what you guys managed to do and what you managed to do, because I know it was a small team. I watched those credits at the end, and I saw your, and I felt very similar, because my first film, you know, I saw my name multiple times, and I'm like, people are going to think I'm ridiculous. But they don't understand how much, you know, the director is their own producer and writer and editor and all the elements. So And my next question is, I did some digging, and it's not necessarily on the film, but I just want to honor the fact that, like, it's so beautiful to see you with your own production company. I looked at Cleo Media and looked at your site, and, for a woman, again, I say a woman of color because it's very different. Our experiences are different, to say the least, to start your own production company. And so, what made you decide to do that? How has that process been? Owning your own company where you create your own content. It's not necessarily through somebody else's company. And what do you have next in terms of your projects? What's coming out of Cleo Media?
Okay. Well, I mean, like along the way of making this film in the past 6 years, like I felt that I learned a lot of stuff about production, about financing, and I felt that I really want to take this expertise and help other women, make their films. So that's why I started this production company of mine, because I felt that I really interested in female-driven content, and these are the stories that I can relate to as a person. So why not have these stories made by a company that I found, and that's why I founded Cleo Media. The next project that I have at the moment is actually a narrative feature that I'm working on. It's still in development, and it's called Rainbows Don't Last Long. So yeah, we'll see.
I love the title. I love the title. I'm already excited. It's great. I'm going to have one more question, I think, or maybe two before I pass it on to Alexandria and Sia. When I was watching the film and looking at the shots and, the moments that you captured, I know you said you went occasionally, you and the DP would go and you would capture, and you spent so much time with them. How did you get those moments? I'm not going to give it away, but there's this beautiful moment with the captain, right? And the captain of, their teacher, their leader. How, were those just obviously not happy coincidences, but were those just coincidences that you managed to be there at those moments? And not just that, but other times. And how much footage did you shoot? Because I always want people to know how many hours actually go into making a 1.5 hour film. I'm sure it was a lot of filming.
Yeah, I mean, I think we shot around 300 hours of footage over more than 90 days. And every time we would go there, like the DP and I would feel that we're like fishing, because we didn't really I didn't want to influence any of the scenes. So we would go there just with the camera and the equipment, and we would just basically spend the day with them. And then I would go back home and then look at the footage and then try to make a scene out of that. And that I think actually Sarah, the editor, did a great job in how she basically captured all these moments, or not captured them, but really reframed them in a way that they are powerful to the story.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to note that, you mentioned it was a small team, and in documentary, people, especially in documentary, people understand how critical both the DP and the editor are to your process in terms of helping you cultivate and craft that story together. I'm going to pass it to Alexandria and Sia from our TIFF Next Wave Committee, and they have a couple of questions for you before we get to audience questions. Thank you, Nayani.
Thank you.
Well, the committee absolutely, Sia's asking the first question, but I just wanted to let you know that the committee absolutely loved your film. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm so excited to meet you because your film was absolutely beautiful. And I'm so happy we got a chance to watch it and to take it for Next Wave. It really means a lot to be able to talk to you too.
Thank you.
So my first question is, what prompted you to want to shed light on Egypt's female athletes in Zebiba's story especially? Was it a personal project for you, or was it something that you found to be really inspirational and interesting?
I mean, I think, I don't know, I think any film needs to be personal in a way. I'm not a weightlifter. I don't know. I didn't know anything about weightlifting before filming this film, but I felt that it's a story that I can relate to, and a lot of girls and women can relate to as well. So, and that's why I really felt that with this story, like I can shed some light not only on this community of female weightlifters, but also on Egypt as a country, because at the end of the day, it's just you see people coming from different backgrounds training in that site, and I found that very fascinating. And I think, yeah, in a way, it is personal and not personal at the same time, but I could really relate to everything Zebiba's going through. And that made the film personal in a way to me.
Sweet. You spoke a little bit about what you've learned throughout the process of making this feature. I was just wondering if there's anything specifically from this feature that you learned or took away that will change how you make films in the future.
Well, I mean, I think this film really taught me to be very flexible, like, you know, because like I went into production with a plan that, I mean, eventually, like the film that came out of the process is completely different than the plan I had or the vision I had at the beginning. And I think this film really taught me to be very open, you know, to what's going on, because at the end of the day, you're filming reality, and reality can be surprising, can be, it's very different than having like a rigid vision or plan at the beginning.
Nice. Another question that I had was, so, you know, you made this amazing film. I was just wondering what advice you'd have for other first-time feature filmmakers or documentary filmmakers.
Well, for me, my advice would be just, you know, grab a camera and just make your first film and learn in the process, because that would happen to me. And when I look back in 2014, when I started working on this project, I think I was a very different person. And the way I thought about films was even different. But I really learned in the process. And I feel that a lot of filmmakers have this fear, you know, of making their first feature, that it actually stops them of making it. And I think it's very important to really like embrace the process and learn from it.
I have a few more questions, I guess, before we go to audience Q&A. You talked a little bit about, you know, your editing process, and you would come back and bring the footage. So it wasn't something that you waited for until the end. I think a lot of times people don't realize how long a documentary can take to make. So thank you for saying that it was 4 years, you know, and sometimes it's even more, we know. And I think the other part of it is that people don't really understand what that editing process is like, trying to cultivate a story, because you don't necessarily, you know, with narrative, we have a script, or, you know, with music videos, we plan particular shots as a particular story. But with this, you have so much to work with, and then you have to make really big decisions. So for you, especially as this being your first feature documentary, what was that editing process like? Can you give us some insight for people who may not be filmmakers but film lovers, what it takes to craft and cultivate, you know, the story and the edit in the post process?
Well, I mean, I think what really helped is that I worked before as an editor. So when I was filming with the DP, I was always thinking of what might the editor need, you know, because that's the first film actually that I direct and not edit. So I was a bit worried how would that process go, but actually it turned out really great. And Sarah Abdullah, the editor, I think did an amazing job because, I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but it was like, you know, from all these footage, we had to really pick the favorite days or favorite moments that I had and start with that. So we started with, I think, the hardest scene in the film, and we just decided to work on that first. And because I also wanted to be immersed in this process and forget about filming anymore and just, you know, focus on the editing process. So we started with that. We started with the scenes that I loved the most, and I felt that they have to be in the film. So we started with that, and then we started to build the story from there. Like, so we had like all these separated scenes, and then we had to just, it was like Lego, you know, like you would put things together just to make the whole film. And I think even after a year of editing, we decided to basically restructure the whole thing again. And I really thank Sarah for that, because she was so brave, to convince me to do that. Yeah, and then, I mean, at the end of the day, what you see is the result of a year and a half of editing and 4 years of filming. So yeah.
Yeah, even everything from the music choices, the sound choices, everything came together so well. You can tell that you took time with the edit. So kudos to you and the team. I'm unsure, yeah, all the hand claps. I wish you could be here, because we would love to celebrate with you in person. And I know we're in a special time in the world, but we would have loved to have you in Toronto. I know audiences would have loved it, and it just would have been amazing. So, hopefully we have you in Toronto sometime in the future. But my other question is, like, have the girls and the women that are involved seen the film? And what is Zebiba's reaction? And what is everybody's reaction? And actually, what was Captain's reaction through the process while you were filming, right? Like, what was that like?
Well, I mean, yeah, they were actually the first to watch the film. Like, the moment we finished editing, and even before starting to work on sound, I really wanted to know what they think about it, because, I mean, they knew, of course, that we're making a film, but it's very different than telling someone I'm making a film about you and then actually showing them the film that you've made. And I mean, they were always asking me, like, when is this film going to be finished? Like, I think they just gave up this question after the second year of filming. So they were so super excited to watch the film, and especially Zebiba and Nahla, and they got so emotional just watching, their journey again. And I watched, as well as some of the team members, we watched all together the screening. And I realized that how not only Zebiba, but most of the girls have grown up. Like, so it's not just a film that we have they have been in, but it's also like a documentation of valuable years of their lives and very touching moments that they had. So yeah, I mean, they were super excited, and I was so happy to know that they liked the film. And Captain Ramadan also managed to watch like 30 minutes of the film, like in an earlier cut, and he liked it.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that it very much is like an archive of a very particular important job in their lives, because especially with Zebiba, you're watching her kind of like from 15 to 18, which is a very it seems like it's close in age, but so much can happen in that time of a young person's life. I find, and I've experienced, that so much shifts, and you see it. One thing that I found really interesting was I saw her face change. I saw her grow up. I'm watching it, and it's it's a girl, and then I'm watching, oh, this is a young woman now. So even the way you decided to transition. Documenting her face was so powerful. And was that intentional? How you introduced it? Because it wasn't a year later, if you didn't have any, you just said age, and then you just all of a sudden saw her at a new age. So was that intentional? Well, how did you think to show the transition of age?
I mean, we were really focused on the story itself, and you could read, I was trying to pick certain moments that are strong in her story, to where I say, okay, this is the age of 14, or this is the age of 15. And she started as a very goofy kid, running around the training site, and ended up as a young woman, at the end of the film. So yeah, so it was the editor and I talked about that, how shall we introduce age? And then we realized that you can actually see it. I mean, and if you see it, then the best we can do is just say, okay, in this moment, she is 16, or in that moment, she's 17, and so on.
No, it was beautiful. And I think we're going into audience question time, but I have one more thing, and then we can go forward. Obviously, I know, and Alexandria, you asked about, what advice or what you would share with, young filmmakers. This talk obviously is sponsored by Share Her Journey. And so, RBC and TIFF are doing such an incredible job to highlight women in film and their experiences and their work, and how they collaborate. And so for you, like particularly in the theme of share her journey, what would you share with women who are filmmakers, women identified filmmakers, people who identify as girls and women out there, in terms of not just sharing her journey, but you're also sharing her story, right? You're sharing your story as a documentarian or a documentary filmmaker. You're very much part of the process. So what would you say to them? And then also, what does share her journey mean to you?
I mean, for me, I think share her journey is it's a very powerful statement. And I think it is what we really need at the moment, because starting from the same idea, I made the film, Lift Like a Girl, because I really, no one outside of Egypt knew about Nahla Ramadan. And she has such great achievements, as an athlete, as well as many of the girls appearing in the film. So I really I feel that the more we know about women out there and what they have to go through to be where they are, the more we appreciate it. And I think it's very needed, actually, because at the end of the day, we don't get to hear these stories that often. And I think it is time to do that.
Yeah, what I think was really beautiful is that, which again oftentimes isn't the case, you and the young women and the girls in the film share something. You come from the same place, you share, the same background, you understand each other. And I think that gives you, as a filmmaker, something really beautiful to be able to work with, because there's care for your community, there's an understanding of nuance. And so it really shines through in the film. Not that you have to be from the community, but when you are, it's something different. It feels so personal and intimate. And I think the access, I wonder about that. When you first started filming, how did they, a question that we have is how did they react? How did it take time to adjust? I'm sure it did, to have the camera there. It's not like you had a big crew, but I find even if you have one camera, it feels like so much more. And then we have an audience question after that.
Well, I mean, at the beginning, everybody thought we were journalists, no matter how much we explained to them that we're making a film, and they thought that we're just there to make a short reportage about them and then leave. So at that time, in the first few days, they were basically talking to the camera, very aware of the presence of the camera and us as a crew. But I think along the way, when they realized that we keep on coming back, and I had actually a talk with them and a talk with Captain Ramadan about how, the kind of story that I'm trying to tell, and how they just don't need to do anything. They don't need to address the camera. They just have to be themselves, and that's it. They were a bit surprised at the beginning. They were like, "Oh, so we don't do anything. We don't act." And I was like, "No, nothing. You don't do anything." But also, I talked to Zebiba and all the girls and said, if you ever feel uncomfortable, and you wanted us to just turn off the camera, just let me know. And I really kept my word. And in some moments, Zebiba, of all girls, came to me and said, please turn off the camera. So I did. And that was especially in the first championship. She was so nervous, and she said, what she said was, please don't be so close to me, because then I get more nervous. So I was like, okay. So I think I built this trusting relationship with them, and that helped, because then they realized that, I will never, I will always respect their wish to be filmed or not. And I think that's very important. And that what really helped them forgetting about the camera is that they trusted us as a team.
No, I think that's beautiful. I think setting that tone for that kind of relationship early, and making them really feel like you're not there to exploit them, but you're there to help tell a story, and that you're listening to them and they can trust you and to keep your word. That's I think it's not just, I think filmmaking is also a process of community building. One of my favorite film folks, Bradbury Young says it's a process of community building, community making, and I think this film is a perfect example of that. We do have a question from the audience. I'm going to hope that I say your name right, and if I didn't, I'm so sorry. But Samka had a question. The girls are sometimes told to man up or be like a man. They're empowered by lifting, but reminded that they have to aspire to men. How do you feel girls are impacted by these messages?
Honestly, I have a problem with these terms personally, but I felt that this is an observation documentary, and I really want to capture reality as much as possible. And it's I found it very interesting how like she is a girl, and yet everybody keeps telling her to man up and to be a man, and I found that very very interesting to have in the film. Because at the end of the day, in Arabic, as I'm sure in many languages, we don't really have a term for being strong other than be a man. And I think, these terms won't be changed unless we really talk openly about them and say, look, I really wanted to have this contrast of people telling her these phrases, and you see her as a girl, doing what she does best is being a girl, so yeah.
Yeah, that made me think about, language, right? Because we are all watching translation, and to truth be told, there are so many times it's so stunning, and I'm watching their faces and their reactions that I have to rewind because I'm showing my age, but I have to go back to kind of, really take in the words again. And so for you, like these kinds of terms, like, was it hard trying to find the right words in English for the subtitles to really translate? Because I know in so many other languages, there's just nuances that people don't always understand. It's just a different way of speaking. So what was that translation process like for you? And then I'm going to have another audience question after that.
Well, yeah, translation was such tricky process because, in cultures are different, in terms of cursing, of terms that are used. So I worked with a translator on the best way, or the closest way actually, to capture the the terms, or the right terms, or try to use the closest language to non-Arabic speaking audience.
Beautiful. And this one is from social media. Someone's asking, can you talk about the mentorship that you saw between the athletes and the younger kids who they support and encourage to their training?
Yeah, as I said, all girls training in that site are really basically coaching other girls. So if one girl has more experience than a younger girl, she would basically coach her. And I found it very interesting how female coaches have a calmer way of coaching than male coaches. I found that very interesting for the story. And at the moment, and I was there visiting them in the training site 2 weeks ago. They're really they're still training, and Nahla has a stronger presence, training Zebiba now, and just basically giving her experience.
And I guess one of the questions is what does Zebiba hope? I know we saw the end, and we have a sense of where she's at, but right now, what is she hoping for? What is she training for? Does she have any particular goals inside? Because I think we all fell in love with her, so now we want to know what's up next for her. So how is she doing, and what's she working towards right now?
She's now training. She trains every day, as you saw in the film. And the thing is that at the moment, the Egyptian national team is being suspended for doping. And although Zebiba is not one of the athletes that were tested positive, the whole team is suspended. So they're basically taking this suspension and 2-year ban as a way to train more and prepare themselves for the World Championships after this suspension is over.
Amazing. Well, we only have a little bit of time left, so we're near the end, but I just want to give you a chance, like, before we leave, again, thank you for sharing your incredible film with us. You know, thank you for all the work that you put into it, because I don't think anyone who's ever watching it fully understand what the process is like for the filmmaker, and especially on a multi-year journey like this. I'm sure there have been many highs and many lows and many challenges, but also so much beauty. And I guess my last question for you, just to give you a chance to speak, is, you know, what do you hope that the film leaves people with? What's your goal for what, you know, how people feel, how they react? What do you want them to know when they watch this film from your perspective?
I really hope that the film can break stereotypes, you know, about women, not only in Egypt, but in the Arab world and all over the world. And I really hope that it can open a discussion about gender equality, about gender bias in language, because it is a crucial part of the story. Like, you know, when you watch the film and you see all these people telling the little girl to man up, I mean, like, I feel that we really have to have a serious discussion about that, and try to understand why do we have that in culture. And I hope that, you know, young girls and boys actually get to watch the film and then talk with each other, and, you know, and just open a conversation about the things that we don't talk about, at least in Egypt.
I think you did a beautiful job. Once again, it just it gave room for all of us to just sit with their stories, not make judgments. It really felt like you were just like a fly. It really actually felt like you were a fly on the wall, and we were just watching a story that you didn't have a particular push or way of, you know, narrative that you wanted to tell. So I appreciate that. A phenomenal documentary. Thank you again, Mayye. Thank you, Alexandria.
So beautiful. Such a good film. Love it.
TIFF Next Wave Committee and RBC, and thank you to TIFF for hosting this discussion. And we hope to see you in Toronto sometime soon.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
I would love to have you. All right. Take care, everyone, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in at home and participating and sharing with us. And yeah, grateful to be part of this. Thank you, Mayye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.